Today on the show, we're going to be covering the latest comic from the creator of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Snotgirl, and the story, Green Hair, Don't Care. So if you don't know what Snotgirl is, like I said, it's from the creator of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. It's published by Image Comics and it is just amazing. It's my favorite comic. I get excited to read it every month that it's out. Since it is an indie comic, I will have links down below to where you can get the comic for yourself so you can support the original creators. So our story starts out with a blog post from the glamorous Lottie Person. Her life in LA is the ideal glamorous life, but in reality, she's got really bad allergies, like she constantly has snot coming out of her nose and tears running down her eyes. And that's normal for her, but something is different this time. Apparently she's messed up everything. And then we flash back. And then we cut to Lottie. She's in a cafe alone and some girl comes up to her and asks who she is. And Lottie's just like, yes, I am Lottie, I am she. And the girl's like, oh, sorry, I thought you were the girl from Game of Thrones, and just walks away. So it turns out she sat in this cafe waiting for her two friends so they can have a haters brunch. Turns out one of her friends is too busy to turn up because she's having sex. And the other one, her friend Misty, does turn up outside of the cafe and basically texts Lottie saying, sorry, not coming in, I've got to go feed my fish. And Lottie's like, you don't have a fish. And she's like, yeah, I totally do have a fish. So Lottie is the only hater at the haters brunch. So Lottie introduces herself. She is a famous fashion blogger. She's living in the city, living her dream, but all her friends are terrible and she has terrible allergies. So online, she is the most glamorous fashion blogger in the world. And in real life, she's Snotgirl, the girl no one can know exists. Also, Lottie, isn't a good person. She believes she's above everyone else and she will do everything in her power to make sure that everyone agrees with that. So later on, she goes about her daily routine. She goes to get her coffee, and as she's waiting for her coffee, she begins to stalk her boyfriend on social media because the two of them are totally on a break when really they're broken up, but that's a whole other thing. But then she sees that her boyfriend has been hanging out with another girl, and this girl has 1992 in her username. So that means this girl is 2 years younger than Lottie. So Lottie has to check out this girl's social media to make sure that this girl is not hot. Turns out she is not hot, so Lottie is safe. Her boyfriend is not dating another girl already. Her coffee's ready, she goes to grab it, but that's when another girl goes to grab the coffee at the same time. Turns out this girl had the exact same order. She has dark hair and she's beautiful. And Lottie decides this girl's name is gonna be Cool Girl. You see, it all started with Lottie's friend Misty. If Lottie meets a person more than once, they get a nickname. So Misty is Cute Girl, her friend Meg is Normal Girl. There's also Trash Boy, Scandal Girl, Goth Girl. Everyone has a secret nickname. Other than Lottie, because she's not sure what her nickname would be. So it turns out Cool Girl has actually seen Lottie before, and Lottie's like, oh yeah, I run a blog. And Cool Girl is like, oh my god, I just started my own blog. Give me your number and I can get some tips from you. But Cool Girl has left her phone at home, so Lottie just writes her number on Cool Girl's arm, and then Cool Girl runs off, and Lottie's like, how does she go outside without her phone? She's so cool. Lottie goes on about her day to the doctor's office and she's like, maybe I'll have a new best friend. Maybe I'll have a friend that isn't trash. She's excited, but she doesn't want to get too excited. She is having a bit of a reality check. So the doctor comes to see Lottie and it's not her usual doctor. It's some creepy guy that's like, call me Dr. Rick. So Lottie's like, I'll call you Dr. Dick. But she doesn't say that out loud. She just keeps it in her head. This doctor is majorly creepy. He's like, Lottie, I'm against changing too much stuff in one day usually, but I want you to try a new medication. Do your allergies ruin your life? So much pain in your eyes, you're a flower afraid of the sun. He does this whole poetic sales pitch to sell Lottie this medication as if it's some kind of perfume. And Lottie, being the self-centered person she is totally buying into it. She's like, yes, I am a beautiful flower that's afraid of the sun, that deserves to be very, very happy. So she gets the new medication and she's thinking to herself, this is a new beginning, a new me, new friends, new medication. She's already thinking about dumping her old friends for this cool girl, who turns out to be called Caroline. So later that day, Lottie actually goes to meet with Caroline at a whiskey bar, and Lottie doesn't go to bars, so she's super overdressed, but she wants to seem really cool for a cool girl. Lottie and Caroline begin to talk about life, and Lottie outright says, yeah, just celebrated my 8th blog anniversary and I feel like I'm not living life properly. You know, I've only ever kissed one person. I feel like my adulthood is escaping me. And Caroline is like, well, there's a boy here that hasn't taken his eyes off of you since you came into the bar. And Lottie looks over and it's Sonny, her boyfriend, at the bar with that other girl. This makes something inside of Lottie snap and snot and tears begin to run down over her face. So Lottie darts to the bathroom and she's trying to have one of her new meds because she doesn't remember if she took one or not, but she's pretty sure she did, but she needs to have one now to stop these allergies. The problem is these pills are round, so they're falling all over the floor and spreading out like marbles. Caroline starts knocking on the door, asking Lottie if she's okay, but Lottie isn't responding. She's like so in her head saying to herself, no more sunny days, which is a reference to the medication not working, and the fact her boyfriend's name is Sunny Day. And then Caroline totally invites herself into the bathroom, turns out it wasn't locked, and she's like, let me guess, that boy that was looking at you was the one boy you've kissed? Meanwhile, Lottie isn't listening. She just doesn't want anyone to see her like this. No one can know her secret. And then Caroline says, hey Lottie, you know what? I've got a funny nickname for you. And this makes Lottie snap even more because Lottie is the one that makes the nicknames. No one else is allowed to give her a nickname. She makes the nicknames. And she just goes, we can call you Snotty. And this breaks Lottie even more. She's like, I thought we were the same, but it turns out I'm a monster called Snotty and you're a cool girl. Meanwhile, Caroline's just casually started walking towards Lottie and she slips on one of the round pills. Her head hits the floor, blood is everywhere, and she seemingly dies on impact. And Lottie just says to herself, I just really wanted to be friends. We cut to Lottie. She's at home crying. She decides she's going to turn herself in. She has no other choice. Next thing she knows, she's waking up, the police never came, and her phone's out of power. 72 hours later, Lottie still hasn't turned on her phone. She goes to a library to try and use a public access computer to try and find out if there's any news about a girl mysteriously dying. But there's nothing, just something about a random girl dying in a nail salon, and this gives Lottie an idea. She goes home and paints her nails. Which she hates, by the way. She feels like she's a beauty blogger starting out again, having to paint her own nails. Then Lottie hears someone in her house and she's like, oh my god, it's a SWAT team. They're gonna come and take me away before I finish my nails. But it turns out it's just her unpaid intern, Esther. The two begin to talk and Lottie is amazed at how efficient Esther is. Esther has already done all of Lottie's packaging for some things she was selling online. And then Lottie realizes one of the packages is going to a girl called Charlene, which is the same name that Lottie saw her boyfriend with. And Esther actually points out that the girl that box is going to is her first intern, who was called Charlene. And Lottie totally forgot about her till right then. And when Esther is like, did you forget your old intern? Lottie is like, okay, that was like 5 years ago and she was boring and weird and she had a weird obscure name and you're not like the others, Esther. Like totally trying to justify forgetting her intern. After this, 9 days come and go and nothing happens. So Lottie meets up with Misty and Meg, otherwise known as Normal Girl and Cute Girl. Meg is talking about her boyfriend and Misty then says, my pig has died. And Meg totally ignores this and basically turns around to Lottie and is like, by the way, Lottie, have you seen this new blogger? She is so you. And she shows her Cool Girl. And Lottie denies ever having seen her before. And the other two are shocked by this because Lottie normally keeps tabs on every single blogger in LA, new and old. So it's actually more suspicious that Lottie has never heard of her. And the other two are like, oh wow, she hasn't posted anything at all this week. And Lottie internally is like, it's cause she's dead. But the other two just kind of brush it off as, oh, she's so relaxed about her social media, that's so refreshing. The conversation pivots and Misty asks how Lottie and Sunny are doing. And Lottie actually admits that Sunny's dating her old intern, Charlene. But Lottie says she's totally over him, so she doesn't even care. So then Misty's like, cool, well let's go stalk Charlene then. And Lottie is completely against this. She's rejecting that idea. She totally is against this idea. So later that day, when she turns up incognito to stalk Charlene, Misty turns up not just being extra, but being the most, which is normal for Misty. It's not long before Lottie realizes that Charlene works at the same place that Lottie met Caroline. She sees Charlene, she's like filled with rage, and then she turns around and bumps into her boyfriend, and every emotion hits her at once. And he's casual, like he's clearly happy to see her, he clearly still wants to be friends, and says, "Hey, I thought you were giving up coffee. I thought that was your New Year's resolution." And internally, she's just like, how dare you remember something about me? Lottie just feels completely replaced, and so she runs away crying. Misty then takes Lottie back to her apartment, and she says, if you put everything together, the way Misty is styling herself now is just like you from 2011. She's trying to become you. And Lottie's just like, I feel sick. And Misty's like, me too, this is crazy. And Lottie's like, no, I actually feel sick. And it turns out Charlene made Lottie's coffee with cow's milk, fully well knowing that Lottie is very lactose intolerant. So Lottie's like, my stalker is trying to kill me. Then Lottie's phone goes off, Lottie checks it, it turns out it's Caroline, and she's alive and wants to hang out. There's even pictures of them together that Lottie doesn't remember taking. Lottie's like, this can't be real. She's not alive. This has to be a trap. And then we cut to the police department. We meet Detective John Cho, the best dressed detective in the entire country. Turns out he really wanted to go to fashion school, but his dad died and survived and wanted his son to be a detective. So after years being a uniformed police officer, he's decided he's gonna break out his true passion as a detective. Fashion. Everyone in the office makes fun of him for it, calling him cute behind his back, but in like a super patronizing way. And then when we go into his office, it turns out that he has marked Lottie as a person of interest. Later, Lottie's in the bath. She's looking at this text and she doesn't know if it's real, if it's fake, if it's someone trying to play a trick on her. She doesn't know what to do. So Lottie decides that she's going to call Cool Girl and get to the bottom of this. And then Esther walks in and totally freaks Lottie out, so she ends the call. So as it turns out, Meg is having a party tonight and everyone's gonna be there. And even Esther is coming along. Turns out that Esther's almost done with her internship and she really needs a real job now that school is over. So Lottie has promised to introduce Esther to someone because she needs to get a real job. She can't be Lottie's unpaid intern forever. Not much happens on the way there, but there's a bit of like getting to know Lottie a bit better, and she says that she loves her friends, truly. Like, she honestly does love her friends, but she would have a hard time telling them apart if it wasn't for nicknames. So do with that what you will. They get to the party and it turns out Lottie can't actually stand blogger parties. She thinks everyone at them is super fake. Everyone there is just saving face. No one's being their real selves. And of course, the first people she sees are Charlene and Sunny. And it turns out that Charlene is wearing Lottie's old dress. Lottie finds Meg and is like, you invited Sunny, what the hell? And Meg is like, you two broke up 3 months ago. Why didn't you just move on? And Lottie's like, we were dating for 5 years. You wouldn't understand. She internally says to herself, can normies even have a broken heart? And then it turns out she's wearing the exact same dress as Misty, which for a fashion blogger is tragic. Lottie makes her way over to the snack table and there's this guy there that's flirting with her. Lottie isn't really flirting back. She kind of finds him a little bit creepy, and then Meg goes on stage to make an announcement, so Lottie goes and pays attention to that because she kind of has to. Meg's her friend, and Meg is like, my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years and 7 months, and the boyfriend joins her on stage and turns out to be the guy that was flirting with Lottie. Lottie is like, this guy is a total creep. I can't call him creepy guy because I've already got 2 of those. She decides that right now what she needs is fresh air, so she's gonna name him later. She walks outside and sure enough, Charlene is right there. Lottie begins to dig into Charlene and basically says, I know you only bought that dress because you want to be like me, but the dress looks stupid on you. And Charlene's like, well, we'll have to agree to disagree. And then Charlene says, I saw you at the bar. I know you went into that bathroom with that really pretty girl. I know what you did. But Lottie just stops listening. She walks away because she doesn't want to hear this. What she needs is an allergy pill. She downs her allergy pill with champagne and she says to herself, I have the power, I hold the cards, there's only one me and it's me. And she locks onto her target, storms outside and pushes Charlene right into the pool. Literally everyone sees this, no one understands the context, but everyone is angry at Lottie. Especially Sunny, who thinks Lottie has gone too far this time. When Sunny's like, what the hell is going on with you? Lottie's like, look, I had to do this. And obviously he wants Lottie to explain, but Lottie's freaking out on the inside again. She's just like, why don't you get it? You should know me better than anyone. Lottie wants to say, she's copying my life. She's copying my look. She's taking you away from me. But Lottie can't get that out. The only words she can muster are, she put milk in my latte. And Sunny's like, Lottie, you're better than this. Or so I thought you were. And Lottie just runs off crying. That's when Lottie gets a phone call from Caroline, and it turns out Caroline is at the party. She's so happy to see her alive, and Lottie's like, what happened the other night? I don't remember. And Caroline's like, LOL, we got so wasted. They decide to step into her bathroom to get Lottie cleaned up, but Meg's creep of a fiance is in there, and he's just like, threesome? So the two of them are like, you know what, let's just leave. We then cut to John Cho. Turns out the reason he's so absorbed with Lottie is because she's his fantasy. Like, he fantasizes about her to the extreme. So Lottie's like, Caroline, what happened that night? And Caroline's like, LOL, I went to the bathroom, but you were gone. We got so wasted. When really what actually happened is Caroline eventually woke up covered in blood, and she found the pills on the floor, and Lottie was gone. As the two are talking, Lottie's like, hey Caroline, when did you start calling me Snotty? And she totally dodges the question, and they begin to talk about Charlene. Lottie sends an apology text to Sunny for Charlene, and it turns out Caroline saw the whole thing with Charlene. She's like, oh my god, I can't believe you saw everything. And Caroline's like, I've had my eye on you for a while now, Lottie. That's ominous. So Lottie goes to the doctor, and he's like, so tell me about your experiences on these pills. And she explains about the bar and losing a temper and pushing a girl in the pool, and his reaction to that is, I'm sorry, but that sounds hot. So Lottie puts her shirt right back on. So he advises her to use over-the-counter allergy medication on top of her current stuff. Later that day, Lottie's at home and she's reading all the mean stuff people are saying about her online. Turns out a lot of people caught the pool incident on video, and a lot of people online are very angry. Most people are in support of Lottie though, because the internet. Esther comes in, and Lottie is so self-absorbed, she's not able to tell Lottie that she found a real job. She's not able to be Lottie's intern anymore. She calms Lottie down and basically says, don't pay attention to the hate, just be better than them. A few days pass and Lottie gets dressed, and she decides to go to this casual get-together at Meg's place. Lottie apologizes for ruining Meg's engagement party, and she sort of accepts this, but with like a slight dig in at Lottie, which Lottie kind of deserved. And also Sunny is there again, and Meg is not sorry for inviting Sunny. She's like, I'm not gonna choose between the two of you, I like you both. Then Meg asks Lottie what she thinks of Ashley, her boyfriend, and Lottie's kind of conflicted because she wants to be a good friend and tell her friend the truth about her creep boyfriend, but she also doesn't want to see her friend hurt. Shortly after this, Lottie and Sunny begin to talk, and Lottie asks how Charlene is doing. And Sunny's like, oh, she was fine last time I spoke to her, which was like a week ago. And Lottie sort of says to herself, was Sunny even that great of a boyfriend? But as she's standing next to him, she's just filled with all of these emotions because it's so natural for them to be together. He's sort of like jumped into one of her selfies, but as he walks away, he tells her not to post it anywhere. Lottie goes home, it's raining, and John Cho is there waiting for her. Turns out Lottie's name came up tangentially in an ongoing investigation, and then he returns Lottie's pills to her. He also flat out admits to being a huge fan of her blog and her in general, so it's like kind of a really creepy situation overshadowed by the fact that there are blood-covered pills. After this, life goes on as normal for the glamorous Lottie. She does photo shoots, but it turns out she's banned from the coffee place that Charlene works at. Esther's got a real job, and she is crazy successful at her new job. It's insane. But she's really happy for Esther, and she really does miss her and remember her, which is more than can be said for like when Charlene was Lottie's intern. Also, Lottie and Sunny have been broken up for 6 months now, and Lottie's telling herself that she is 100,000% over it. She doesn't care. She's also decided to forgive Charlene, like Charlene's not her problem anymore. She's like dust in the wind. And that's how easy it is to forgive someone. She's just like over it. And Lottie even says to herself, I've gotten over Sunny, I've forgiven Charlene, I'm on a roll this week. It's not how that works. So Lottie goes to this New Year's Eve party, and sure enough, neither of her friends are on time. She's the first one there, And Charlene is the first person Lottie runs into, and Charlene proclaims to the entire party, look, Lottie, I'm wearing your panties, because Lottie has her own fashion line, but the way she says it makes it sound like she's actually wearing Lottie's panties, and Lottie has to explain to the whole party, I have my own fashion line, she's not actually wearing my panties. Lottie is just mortified by this whole experience. She escapes and she just flat out thinks to herself, what do I have to do to stop Charlene from being the worst? Kill her? That's when Misty and Meg turns up and Lottie's like, I need a drink. And Meg's like, no, remember what you said in our group text last month? You said you weren't going to drink anymore. And she also tells Lottie to finally confront Sunny about Charlene because this has gone on for long enough. Also, another thing is that Lottie realizes that Misty's cape has all of this cat hair coming off of it and it's not triggering Lottie's allergies at all. So Lottie goes over to Sunny and is like, didn't you see what your drunk girlfriend did? And he sort of just brushes it off as, LOL, she's a mess, but she's sweet. And Lottie says, are you just dating her to torture me? But Sunny actually seems to genuinely like her. Sunny sort of shifts the conversation. It's like, how was the holidays with your family? I know it's kind of difficult. And Lottie's like, well, seeing as you broke up with me, I don't see how it's any of your business, but it was terrible as usual because Lottie has a really bad relationship with her family. This is when Sunny reveals to Lottie that he got her a present, but before Lottie can open it up, Caroline turns up and drags Lottie away. It turns out that Lottie hasn't actually seen Caroline in months. She's been totally avoiding her. She can't get over the fact that a police officer basically confirmed that Caroline flat out lied to her. She tells Caroline, please stop calling me Snotty. And Caroline's like, look, I saw this scene of Panty Girl earlier. I would be pissy too. Let's get you a drink. And Lottie's like, I'm not having a drink. My other friends respect that. You need to respect that too. And Caroline just says, well, you've always cared about their opinions, haven't you? Lottie reveals that she knows that Caroline lied to her face. And Caroline then smashes the mirror, turns around and says, hey, you know how you've only kissed one person? Maybe tonight's your night. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm sure there's someone at this party you haven't totally alienated. And then she storms off. Lottie then walks through the party, realizing just how alone she is. Eventually, she runs into Charlene, who she sees alone and crying. And she walks up to Charlene and asks, what's up? And Charlene's like, nothing that you would understand. She tells Lottie that she's too perfect. She just can't be the kind of person that feels totally lost. And Lottie's like, I feel like that all the time as well. And Charlene goes on to say, I've been following your blog since you started. You've been my guiding light. And I'm 24 now and not even a little bit happy. And Lottie's like, me too. I'm only 2 years older than you. What did you expect by trying to be like me through my blog? Charlene's just kind of surprised because she sees Lottie as together and beautiful like a goddess on earth. And Lottie tells her, that's the internet, that's not real life. And Charlene goes, yeah, I know that now because the more I try to be like you, the more miserable I get. And this is something that really sort of hit home with me. Like, people don't know us online personalities, regardless of how big or how small you are. What people see is such a small segment of our lives that it is not real. You can be the biggest oversharer online. It is not a real representation of that person. It's just impossible to be that. At the end of the day, online personalities are just entertainment, not role models. The New Year countdown begins and Charlene apologizes for banning Lottie from coffee, and Lottie sort of admits she deserved it. As the clock strikes 12, Charlene leans in and kisses Lottie, and Lottie backs away and is like, what are you doing? And Charlene's like, there was a vibe. And then Caroline turns up and is like, she knows exactly what she's doing. She apologizes to Lottie for their fight, and by the way, Caroline is like bleeding from her head. Charlene is like, oh my god, at the bar, there was blood everywhere. It was her blood. But Caroline won't let Charlene talk. And Charlene is like, Lottie, you have to listen to me. I have something really important to tell you about her. But Lottie just doesn't want to hear it. She shoves Charlene away to shut her up. And Charlene falls off the building to her death. And that is the end of Snotgirl. Green hair, don't care. I love Snotgirl so much. Like, every single one of these characters is so messy. I live for it. I just can't wait. Issue number 11 comes out in a few weeks and I'm so excited. Like, people aren't being killed, but I know people like Lottie. I know people like Misty. I know people like Meg. Like, it is weirdly accurate. Like I said at the beginning, there's links down below to where you can pick up Snotgirl for yourself, and it's so good. I totally recommend it. It just consistently gets better and better and better. I really love Snotgirl. I can't express how much I love this comic. It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. So what do you think of Snotgirl? And do you want to see more indie comics from me? Please let me know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, do all of my social links. Check out my Patreon if you want to support the show. And I've also got a PayPal donation link. Seriously, any donations help so much. But for now, my name is Faust. This has been Exploring Comics, and it is super effective.